The dark sky above the planet Arvella shimmered with twin moons, casting pale silver light across jagged cliffs and endless forests. The wind whispered through the trees, carrying strange, sweet scents. Birds, or what looked like birds, screeched in the distance, their cries echoing through the valleys. Amid the alien wilderness, a lone human soldier stumbled, coughing and bleeding. Ethan had crash-landed only hours ago. His ship had been torn apart during a reconnaissance mission, leaving him stranded on a planet thought uninhabitable by humans. Every step he took left deep impressions in the soft, violet soil. His uniform was ripped, his boots scuffed, and his body ached from the impact. But worse than that was the feeling that he was not alone. He stopped and pressed his back against a massive tree trunk, listening. At first, he heard nothing but the wind. Then, faintly, he felt a presence. Something was watching him. It was subtle, almost like the air around him was heavier, warmer, and aware. Ethan's hand instinctively went to the small knife at his belt. He had trained for situations like this, but nothing in his human experience had prepared him for this. Alien predators? Perhaps? He didn't know. But he had learned to trust one thing: instincts. And right now, his instincts screamed danger. Far above, in the shadows of the cliffs, a pair of golden eyes reflected the moonlight. Then, another pair. The alien women of Arvella had arrived. They were unlike anything Ethan had ever seen. Slender, yet powerful, with elongated limbs that moved with unnatural grace. Their skin shimmered faintly in the moonlight, a pale luminescence that hinted at strength and speed. Their eyes glowed with an amber light, and their faces were beautiful, sharp, almost ethereal. But there was something dangerous in their gaze. Predators, yes, but intelligent predators. They could smell fear. And more than that, they could sense the rare energy in Ethan's blood. Ethan had heard stories of the Arvellans in classified files. They called them vampire women, creatures of sharp minds and unmatched physical ability. They were rumored to be deadly hunters, and yet, their society had no known men. Humans had long been considered extinct here. That made him unique. He held his breath as one of the figures stepped forward, her movement silent as the wind. She crouched low on the cliff, tilting her head, and her eyes seemed to pierce Ethan's very soul. Then, in a voice that was soft, musical, but carried authority, she spoke. "You are not of this world," she said. Ethan froze. His voice caught in his throat. I'm human," he managed, barely above a whisper. Her lips curved into a slight smile, sharp and knowing. A human. Rare. Very rare. She studied him, as if tasting his presence without touching him. "Your blood. It calls to us." The words sent a shiver down Ethan's spine. "Calls to you?" he repeated. "Yes," she said simply, standing upright. Her movements were effortless, like water flowing around rocks. "We can sense it. You belong, or will belong. That is the choice now." Ethan's mind raced. Belong? To them. He didn't know whether to run or fight. But deep down, he knew one thing: running in this forest was useless. These aliens were faster, stronger, and could see him in ways humans never could. Survival meant thinking. Quick. He backed away slowly, keeping his eyes on her. I just want to survive. I don't want trouble." The alien woman's smile widened. "Trouble? You will find no trouble in honesty. But hiding is foolish." She crouched again, moving with uncanny speed and precision, coming closer, yet never breaking her graceful stance. Ethan's mind flashed to the knife at his belt. But before he could reach for it, she stopped, sniffed the air near him, and tilted her head again. Your blood. It is different, full of life, warmth, courage. She almost whispered the last word, as if savoring it. Ethan swallowed hard. Courage? That was just instinct. Training. Human stubbornness. He didn't have superpowers like these aliens. But somehow, his presence mattered. Somehow, that had given him a chance. I don't understand, Ethan said, stepping back further. You will, she replied. But first, you must come with me. Before he could react, several more alien women appeared from the shadows, silent as predators. They formed a semicircle around him, their eyes fixed on him. There was no malice in their gaze, not yet, but there was curiosity. Ethan realized then that he had only two choices: fight a hopeless battle, or surrender and hope he could survive in their world. He took a deep breath, summoning every ounce of courage he had left. All right, he said finally. I'll go with you. But, he hesitated, I don't understand why. The first alien stepped closer, extending a hand not to harm, but to guide. Because, she said, her voice soft but powerful, you are a human among us. And that is new. That is important. Ethan's heart pounded in his chest as he allowed her to lead him. Every step felt heavy, but also thrilling. He was alive in a way he hadn't been since before the crash. Danger had a face now, and he could see it, breathe it, and perhaps survive it. They moved through the forest with ease, the alien women gliding over roots and rocks without a sound. Ethan stumbled occasionally, but they never mocked or punished him. Instead, they waited, watched, and guided. The golden-eyed commander, he assumed she was a commander, kept him close, always smelling the air around him, always aware of his blood. Hours passed. Ethan's body was sore, his stomach empty, yet his mind was alive with questions. Why him? Why had his blood called to them? What did they want? And, could he ever return to his world, if he survived at all? As dawn approached, they arrived at a clearing. At first, Ethan thought it was a natural valley, but then he realized the cliffs around it were shaped, carved, as if by design. Towers of stone rose from the ground, shimmering with faint energy. It was a city, but unlike any human city he had ever seen. It was elegant, alien, and alive. The alien commander turned to him, her glowing eyes meeting his. This is our home, she said simply, and soon it may be yours. Ethan swallowed, staring at the city. Fear mingled with awe. Survival had led him here, to a place no human had ever walked before. And somewhere deep inside, he felt a strange spark. A sense that his presence, his very being, could change something. But for now, he had to live. He had to learn. And most importantly, he had to be careful. Because the alien women had smelled his blood. And that meant he was theirs, whether he liked it or not. And in this strange, beautiful, dangerous world, being human was both a curse and a gift. The first light of Arvella's twin suns cast a soft glow over the alien city. Ethan followed the golden-eyed commander, whose name he still did not know, through streets that seemed alive. The towers shimmered faintly, as if resonating with energy, and the air was filled with a subtle hum. Strange plants grew along the pathways, pulsing lightly, almost like they were breathing. Everything about this place screamed that it was alive and intelligent. Ethan tried to keep up, but the commander moved with an effortless grace. She didn't run. She glided. Her companions, the other vampire women, flanked her silently, eyes constantly on him. Though they didn't threaten, their presence reminded him constantly that he was different and watched. Finally, They reached a large building carved into the cliffs. Its surface was smooth, glowing faintly in patterns that Ethan could not understand. He followed the commander inside. The interior was cool and dim, yet it felt alive. Walls pulsed softly, as if responding to their presence. "You must rest," the commander said. Her voice was calm, soothing, but it carried authority. "Your journey was long. Your body, your blood, is strong, but fragile." Ethan nodded, exhaustion making his muscles ache. I can rest?" he asked. "Yes," she replied, "but not for long. You are unusual. Your blood, it connects to us in ways we do not fully understand." Ethan's heart skipped. "Connects? What do you mean?" The commander studied him, tilting her head. "Your blood has energy. It is life. It is rare. We can sense it. It calls to us, but it also changes us. It binds us to you, and you to us." Ethan swallowed hard. "So, I belong to you?" Her gaze softened slightly. "Not belong in the way you fear. Belong in a bond. You will survive here. If you accept this connection. If you do not, survival will be difficult." Ethan stared at her, trying to process her words. Bond, connection, belonging. He had survived war, storms, and space travel, but nothing had prepared him for this. To live among beings so powerful, whose very senses could read his energy. It was terrifying, yet strangely compelling. He nodded slowly. "I'll try. I don't have another choice." The commander smiled faintly, and the others shifted closer, curious but respectful. "Good. You must learn. You must understand us, if you are to survive." For the next few days, Ethan stayed in the alien city. The commander, whose name he finally learned was Liara, allowed him to explore under careful supervision. He noticed that the women moved silently, but their eyes missed nothing. Every gesture, every word, every breath was precise, controlled, and deliberate. Yet, when they were near him, he sometimes felt warmth. Not physical warmth, but a sense of attention, care, and focus that humans rarely gave or received. Liara began small lessons. She explained their society, their hierarchy, and their customs. Every word she spoke carried weight. Every movement she made was deliberate. Ethan listened, absorbing everything. It was fascinating, even though he did not always understand. "You are learning quickly," Liara observed one evening as they watched the twin moons rise. "Humans. You adapt in ways our kind cannot. That is why your presence is important. That is why your blood calls to us." Ethan glanced at her. "Calls. You said that before. Why me? Why does my blood matter so much?" She smiled faintly. "Because humans carry something unique, something ancient. Life, courage, unpredictability. Even when weak, you can be dangerous. Even when frightened, you can inspire." Ethan laughed softly, incredulous. "Dangerous? Me? I've been running from almost everything since I arrived." "Exactly," Liara replied. "That is why you are special. That is why you matter." For the first time since arriving, Ethan felt a spark of confidence. Perhaps he did have a place here. Perhaps he could survive, and even make a difference. But the city of Arvella was not entirely safe. On the third night, as the moons cast long shadows over the cliffs, alarms sounded. Ethan woke to the sound of rushing footsteps and the low, urgent hum of the city. Liara appeared instantly at his side. "Something is wrong," she said, her voice calm but tense. A faction disagrees with our bond with you. They see your presence as a threat. Ethan's stomach dropped. A threat? To you? Liara nodded. To us all. They do not understand your value. They believe we should remove you. Do you understand? Ethan nodded grimly. I think so. But what can I do? You will help, Liara said. Not with strength like ours, but with mind, courage, and cunning. Your human ways are unpredictable. Ethan's heart raced. Yes. That is why you survive where others fail. That is why your blood binds us. When the time comes, you will act. Hours later, the faction arrived at the city gates. Ethan watched from the walls, hiding behind Liara and the other women. Dozens of alien warriors approached, their movements sharp and precise, their weapons designed to pierce even the strongest defenses. But Ethan noticed something. Their approach was predictable. They followed patterns, routines, strategies that Liara and her group could anticipate. Ethan whispered to Liara, "They move in a pattern. If we block the left flank and draw them to the center, they'll bunch up. Then, you can strike from above." Liara tilted her head, impressed. Interesting. You think like a human strategist? Ethan shrugged, nervous. I just notice patterns. I've survived long enough to see them. Liara nodded. Then we trust your insight. You will lead. In your way. The battle that followed was swift but intense. Ethan's advice proved invaluable. Using his human perspective, the aliens outmaneuvered the attacking faction. Ethan stayed behind the lines, guiding them, giving directions, calling out weaknesses he spotted in the enemy's formation. By the end, the rival faction had retreated, their forces scattered and demoralized. When it was over, Liara approached him, her eyes glowing with approval. You see? Courage is not always about strength. Sometimes, it is about thinking, observing, surviving. Ethan exhaled, sweat and relief mixing. Liara smiled, a rare softness in her expression. That is enough. That is more than enough. You are part of us now, in ways few humans could ever be. In the days that followed, Ethan's bond with Liara and the others deepened. He learned to move among them, to understand their language, their customs, and their expectations. They taught him to sense energy flows, to read subtle changes in the environment, and even to recognize some signs of danger before it arrived. And all the while, he discovered something remarkable. His presence did not weaken the aliens. It strengthened them. They moved faster, coordinated better, and seemed more alert in his company. His blood truly did have an effect. One night, as Ethan walked with Liara under the twin moons, she spoke quietly. Do you understand now? Your life, your presence, your courage changes things here. You are not just surviving. You are important. You are inspiring. Ethan looked up at the glowing sky, trying to process the weight of her words. Me? Inspiring? Yes, she said simply. Humans are like that. Small, fragile, unpredictable, and yet, sometimes, we see things in you that we cannot see in ourselves. Ethan felt a warmth spread through him. For the first time since crashing on Arvella, he felt he belonged somewhere. Not completely, not entirely, but enough to survive, enough to matter. And somewhere in the back of his mind, he realized that survival alone was no longer enough. Now, he had a purpose. He had to learn, to adapt, and to prove that even a human alone, stranded and weak by alien standards, could change the fate of an entire society. The bond with Liara was no longer just about survival. It was about trust, understanding, and a strange new hope. The human among them was no longer hiding. He had been found, and in the eyes of the alien vampire women, he was no longer just prey. He was something more.